Yo, what's going on, guys? HyperX here. Welcome back to another video for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And today I want to talk about the game, talk about kind of, our impressions of it. And I'm joined by Paradise. How's it going, man?
How's it going, guys?
I'm joined by Paradise because we have both been playing through Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Obviously, it's kind of a crazy period of time right now. There's a lot of games to juggle, so we both started playing through. I then had to kind of split my time between Valhalla and Spider-Man, so I'm about halfway through the game, but Paradise has completely finished it. Well, still doing some collectibles, but Paradise has completed it. So what we thought we'd do today is kind of touch on our impressions, what we enjoyed, also kind of answer like the campaign length question, talking about how long it took Paradise to complete it, and just in general talk about some of the stuff that we're really enjoying with the game. I will say right now that this will largely speaking be spoiler free. There's a couple of things towards the very end of the review we do want to talk about. The art, they have still been shown publicly, they've been shown in trailers and stuff, so I don't really deem them spoilers, but to keep you guys and your experience safe, basically towards the end of the review I'll give you a quick spoiler warning before we talk about the final thing if you don't want to listen to it. But yeah, I mean, let's just kind of start off the bat. Like, first things first, before we start talking impressions, Paradise, like, how long has it taken you to get to the end?
So, I've been playing the game to finish it. I have been blitzing through as quick as I could to finish the game. And I have to say, it is a pretty long game, even when you're ignoring all of that extra side stuff and you're just going for the main story. So for me, it took about 40 hours to unlock basically all the provinces in England, but that wasn't the story complete, because then you have other quests that lead to other things to do that progress the story even more. So after that extra stuff, it actually ended up taking me about 50 to 55 hours, I would say. So around that sort of 50 to 55 hour mark to get everything unlocked, all the story complete and out of the way. But that is not including any collectibles, getting all of the skills, getting all of the armor, unlocking everything, doing all the little side quests and talking to everyone. That is just purely going for the missions and ignoring everything else. So to basically just do only the story is about 55 hours, and to do all the collectibles, I would say you're easily looking at another 10 plus hours to do all that stuff, because it's quite a big map with quite a lot of stuff and quite a lot of collectibles, as is the standard with Assassin's Creed. And I was just completely surprised by the length of it, because I've played every Assassin's Creed since Assassin's Creed 3, and I feel like this is one that took me even longer to do when talking about just the story. And I feel like I haven't scratched the surface of like everything the game has to offer and all the different things in the world. So it's been a really interesting journey for me.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear, because obviously one of the things they spoke about pre-launch was obviously one of the kind of complaints people had about the previous Assassin's Creed was that it did feel quite long, but then there was also, because that was partly like it was a huge map, and there was a lot of kind of, backtracking and kind of going around there, whereas this one, they did say that like it was going to be like slightly shorter, but they said also the map is slightly smaller. So I think it kind of gives you that more condensed, like it's still a big map, it's still plenty of place to explore, but I think it gives you that more condensed experience. But I think one of the things that I enjoyed the most in like my first kind of, I've sunk about closing in on sort of 25, 30 hours in, so I'm a little over halfway now. So, I really like how it's paced, because one thing that I found that, you're going through, and there's often, I think it's especially kind of exacerbated if you happen to be playing games quite quickly, but often you'll kind of get to games like this where there'll be a part that it just slows down, like, oh, this is the part where you need to go and do this really annoying, grindy thing. But I found, at least for my first half, and you can kind of talk more to like the latter half, but like at least in my first half of playing through, the story flowed really well. Like I mean, I'll admit I am biased. Like, I really like Vikings, I really like Norse mythology, I like that kind of stuff. So this setting-wise is more appealing to me than the previous Assassin's Creed anyway. So, there's a little bit of thematic bias there. But I just really enjoyed, the characters, exploring the world. And I found that just like everything, from story mission to story mission, even when, you look at the map and you sort of see like higher power level areas and you're like, oh, I'm going to have to grind to get there. You actually don't. Like, you just play the stories organically, and you're basically, by the time you finish like a region, you're already ready to go to the next area, right? And I mean, does that kind of extend into the latter half of the game?
Yeah, I would say it does. To touch on what you said, like, obviously we're English, so this game is a lot more interesting to us in a way, because it's our own country that we're exploring, in its history in the past. But I was also a huge fan of like Rome and Sparta and Greece and all that stuff in Odyssey. So I feel like I have a good correlation between the two for bias, and I do think that Valhalla is in a lot of ways better. And in terms of like the distance you travel for the story as you go, throughout the campaign, you're never really having huge amounts of travel with the, a lot of waiting in between. There is obviously traveling up and down the country, but there's a lot of fast travel points that speed that up. And every time you're doing the next mission, it's always a new area with something new and exciting, and it very often leads to a really cool battle as well. So I never found myself feeling like, oh, this is really boring, it's really repetitive, and I don't really want to have to sail for 5 minutes just to go and do another fetch quest. It was more like, I'm going through some amazing English countryside, or I'm sailing down, the canals, and I'm seeing some really cool stuff. There's different side quests everywhere. Even though I was ignoring them, it was very compelling to go and do them, but I still ignored them and went through, did the missions, and it was different every time, and there was so many unique stories throughout the actual campaign as well. A lot of good characters, good character development, and sort of a lot of emotional pull in some of the main mission stories, particularly near the end as well. So I definitely didn't feel bored, and I definitely didn't feel like I was doing sort of those really mundane quests that you often get in these types of games. So I was really, really impressed in general.
Yeah, one of the things that I really enjoyed about the world as well is that, I know similar things have been present in like previous ones, but like the way that as you're exploring the world, you'll see like these gold dots, the white dots, and the blue dots. Like blue dots are normally some kind of quest or something interesting around the world. Gold dots are like gold to find, and whites are like artifacts. But like they're always spaced. They're spaced like nicely around the map, so there's always something to do. Like if you're kind of going on a quest, it's very easy to be like, oh, I'm going to go towards this tower so I can synchronize. But then suddenly you're like, oh, to the right there's an artifact. Let me just go and kind of go in this cave. It definitely always kind of gave me the Breath of the Wild feel, where like I kept on getting distracted when I was playing Breath of the Wild, or even Ghost of Tsushima. Like I kept on sort of doing that thing where like I would want to go and focus on something, and you very easily go off. But the nice thing is that, I find it really annoying in games where if you go and do those side things and suddenly you get there, you're like, this is just really boring. I mean, I'm not to say every single one of those blue dots on the map is incredibly exciting. Sometimes you just save a little peasant who's having a bad day. But a lot of the time I found that you kind of go somewhere and you've got these interesting puzzles, like puzzles in the world, or like animus glitches, or interesting bosses to find, like legendary creatures and like secrets and stuff. And there's just like that constant sort of sense of mystery. So I really liked kind of the open world exploration side of things.
So yeah, just to touch on that, like you say, it's color coded for all the side stuff and collectible things. And what that means is, as you're exploring, you can choose, well, do I want to go and get that artifact to hand in for like the completionist side of the game, or do I want to go to the gold dot to get more supplies to upgrade my settlement, or to get a new ability or a new armor piece? So you can completely ignore the colors that you don't care about if you're not a collector going for achievements and for 100%, but you might still want to go for the armor and the weapons out in the world because that directly affects your gameplay. But what you said about Ghost of Tsushima was really interesting, because that was one of the few games where you're going around the Tsushima Islands and it's so gorgeous everywhere you go, and you want to take a picture in photo mode because it's so amazing. And for me, Valhalla was so vibrant with English countryside and had so many nice areas that I got that same vibe from Valhalla. And I honestly think it's one of the few games that does that outside of Ghost of Tsushima. There is some really beautiful landscapes out there, and it's worth enjoying them because it's kind of history for us as well. There's some areas that you can go to that are quite iconic to England, just to say one would be like Stonehenge, for example. Yeah.
I wish this game had photo mode as good as Tsushima, because like there's sometimes you can still take photos, but the photo mode is pretty basic in this one, and there were times where like I paused to take a photo, and like you can still do some tweaking, you can change some filters and mess around with things, but I think I've been spoiled by Tsushima's photo mode.
Tsushima's photo mode was very good. There is filters and stuff that you can do, but it's not quite as in depth. That's definitely true.
Yeah, but let's touch I want to touch briefly on combat, and then just before we kind of like wrap up with the last bit. But combat, so you have to kind of remind me, because it's been like a while since I played like Origins and Odyssey, and I definitely don't remember them as well. But one thing that I really like about Valhalla is I feel like there's a lot more aggression to the combat, which matches the sort of Viking theme, because obviously you can dual wield, right, which I just love. I love the fact that I go around dual wielding like two-handed weapons because it just feels meaty. But even some of the executions, like this everything about it, because I know it's called an Assassin's Creed game, and like the more of these that go on, the weaker the kind of assassin link, so to speak. But regardless of that, like I just love the fact that when you're in combat, you're raiding with your army, like you're all running in together as the Vikings would, and then suddenly like some of the takedowns are just brutal. Like you're literally just like kicking someone's head off with or slicing it off with an axe, and it's insane. But it definitely feels very kind of visceral and kind of aggressive, and like just how I sort of expect the Vikings to fight.
Definitely. So there is takedowns and things like that in Odyssey and in Origins, but they're more far and few in between. So in Valhalla, you'll be attacking, and every other guy that you're taking down, you're going to do a really fancy cinematic kill on him, whether it be to chop his legs off, or to impale him with his own sword, or to stick the standard with the flag on it inside of them, and then they're just there on the battlefield with a big flag planted out the ground. So the combat feels really dynamic, really satisfying, and I would definitely say it's better than the previous games so far in terms of how weighty it feels and how good the combat is, with all the different unique takedowns and things like that. That just really, you kill a guy and you're just, wow, that was insane. I just impaled him on his own sword, and now he's just stood there while all of my Viking raiding guys are just around me killing other people. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I've definitely I'm speaking personally from like a halfway through point of view, but already I feel like it's fast becoming my favorite Assassin's Creed game I've played. So I'm definitely enjoy that aspect. And it's obviously, I mentioned before that I've been kind of juggling different games this week, because obviously with the next gen launches, and every time I move to a game away from Valhalla, I just keep thinking about, I want to get back to my quest. So obviously there's that enjoyment there. And like the one thing I definitely want to touch on, but this is the point in the video where I want to give you guys like a quick spoiler warning. Now, I mentioned this before, like I wouldn't really deem it a spoiler because it's been shown in trailers and it's been mentioned in official blog posts, so I don't really think it's that. But regardless, if you don't want to hear about like one of the more kind of mystical aspects of the game, then this will probably be a point to step away. But assuming you guys have, you still want to know, giving you ample warning, then I want to talk about the mythical realms, because obviously there's a point in the game where you can get this NPC in your village, and she'll basically make you like a mythical sort of potion, and you can then go into a dream world where you go to Asgard and you go to Jotunheim. And this is this I want a game with just this alone. Like, this is without question my highlight of the game. Like when I because Paradise was playing through and he was going Golden Lining, and I went off on a different tangent, and I was in Asgard before Paradise, and he's like, "What? How did you get there?" I'm just like, "What the hell?" But the fact that you're playing out alongside characters from Norse mythology like Thor, like Freya, Loki and Tyr and people like that, right? And you're actually, if you know anything about like Norse mythology, some of the quests actually pan out to like tell the stories, and you're creating the stories that happened. When you're fighting Fenrir, and then you're crafting the twine that basically holds him and ties him to the mountain, like all that kind of stuff you do. It's fantastic.
So yeah, I didn't get to experience that until after I'd basically cleared the whole of England already. And when you were mentioning it and talking about it, I was like, oh, what have I missed out on? Like, where is this? And having now completed all of it, I can say it is definitely my highlight of the game as well. It's incredible going to Asgard. It's incredible exploring that side of the sort of story and the gods and everything that goes into that, and the mythology. And it all ties together, like you said. I won't speak too much on what happens there, because we don't want to spoil things for anyone. But it's really exciting. It's really cool. I will say it's a map to explore as well. So you can really figure things out and look around and do all the explorable things that you want to in there as well. And it just gets cooler as you finish that Asgard story arc as well. And it all ties together into the main story in the end. So you have to complete that to know what I mean, but it is very, very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, 100% worth checking out. Like, it is definitely, without question. I've been having a blast with it. You've been playing on PC. I've been playing on Series X. Like, the game looks fantastic. It's not to be clear, just to kind of round it out. It's not perfect. Like, in a predictable way, if you guys have played a lot of like Ubisoft open world games, there are bugs. There is a kind of element of jankiness to it that it's just like things don't necessarily always like super smooth and stuff. But overall, like, honestly, I just feel like I haven't experienced anything that has detracted from my experience. Like, yeah, you could look at it and you can be hypercritical and say, you know what, that animation looks a little bit rough around the edges, or this doesn't look super good. The facial animation at times is a bit off. But like, honestly, as a whole overarching experience, like if you like Vikings, if you enjoy Assassin's Creed, like this is definitely worth playing.
Yeah, definitely. I actually, having started from Assassin's Creed 3, so I did miss out on 2, which I know is a lot of people's favourite. And my personal favourite is Black Flag. I really, really enjoyed that game. But I do think Valhalla is definitely taking my number 2 favourite spot below Black Flag, and maybe even overtaking it the more that I'm playing it and doing all these side quests and collectibles, because there's so much cool stuff. So for me, this is one of my most highly rated Assassin's Creed games, and I think it deserves that position. It is a really, really solid installment to the series. Yeah,
Yeah, awesome. Well, there we go. Thank you for joining me. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you guys have got any questions about the game, then obviously let us know. And be sure to keep it locked on the channel because we've got loads of Assassin's Creed stuff. Paradise is working on some cool guides for some really cool things you don't want to miss. So keep it locked on the channel, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. Don't forget, if you haven't already done so, you can join the HyperX Gaming Discord. We've got an awesome community over there with so many different channels for you to chat loads of different topics and different games. I'm in there, the team's in there. If you guys want to chat with us, find people to play with, it's just in general a great place to be. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our future uploads.